testimony set to resume later this morning in the murder trial of defendant Christopher Gregor. The New Jersey father is accused in the death of his 6-year-old son, who allegedly died due to injuries that happened as a result of chronic child abuse. Now, on Tuesday, prosecutors presented this surveillance video of a visibly emotional Christopher Gregor walking out of the emergency room while nurses were scrambling to keep his son, Corey Micciolo, alive. Nurse Lindsay Carnevale, who helped treat the 6-year-old, described that moment to the jury.
What did the defendant say about Corey's symptoms before he was brought into the emergency room?
That he had been vomiting and he was complaining of leg and body pain.
Did the defendant leave room 6 of the emergency room?
He did.
And what was Corey's condition?
Corey was very sick. He mumbled a couple words to me.
So we're asking this morning, how will Gregor's ER actions affect this trial? Let's bring in our power panel now. Still with me, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt, entertainment reporter Kinsey Schofield, and psychologist and parenting and family relationship expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Good morning to you all. Oh boy, this is just heartbreaking. Watching that video, it is sickening. Kinsey Schofield, may I start with you? Would you kick off our conversation, please, with your thoughts and how that video might affect the trial?
Absolutely. I mean, just a few hours ago, I noticed on the Daily Mail that this story was trending with over 3,000 people reading it at the same time. People are affected by these visuals. They're affected by the idea of a child being left alone, scared, and overwhelmed in the circumstances that he was in. And people are very much glued to this story and want to see justice for Corey.
Most certainly they do. Franz Borghardt, let me go to you here. If you're on the defense side of this case, talk to me. How are you feeling about this video of Christopher Gregor walking out while everyone is trying to save his son?
So it's all about framing. You have to convince the jury he wasn't walking out because he didn't care. He was walking out because he did care. It is not ridiculous, Julie. Hard to believe, hard to understand, but it's not ridiculous that if someone you love and care for is getting operated on or is in an emergency medical situation, you have to take a step back and say, I can't watch this. Now, it's hard though, right? I have a kid. I would want to be there during that medical treatment. However, you've got to convince the jury. You've got to give them an idea that maybe, just maybe, that was the way he was dealing with it. He wasn't abandoning the child. He was simply doing what he could to maintain his sanity in the moment. Don't like it? But that may be the best he can do.
That's a great argument for closings, Franz. Thank you for that. And Dr. Sue, I wanted to throw this particular question at you, dovetailing off of the question to Franz. Not defending Christopher Gregor here. So that being said, would you help me out, Dr. Sue, and look at this from his perspective? Could there be an innocent reason for wanting to walk away? Could he be coping something? Talk to us about the psychology at play, please.
I mean, there could be, but I don't think there is. And, you know, that would be that he walked out because he was under tremendous stress and pain and that he couldn't watch or be told about his son dying. He couldn't handle the anxiety that was going on during this time. I mean, there's many reasons that somebody could or would walk out of the room and leave. It is uncommon, but when you're under severe emotional distress, you don't know exactly how you're going to react to something like this.
Sure.
Although when he's walking out, Julie, he doesn't look like he's under distress.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that's a great point, Dr. Sue. And we know that after little Corey was pronounced dead, it was within a 30-minute window that he left for good. So we see him leave the ER, he kind of hangs around a bit, and then with little Corey being pronounced dead, the exits within about 30 minutes time from there. Another big focus in this case is the child abuse hotline call that Christopher Gregor made the morning of his son's death. And we've got a portion of that call that was played for the jury on Tuesday. We played it for you in its entirety during the proffer outside of the jury's presence, and the judge said that certain portions of it had to be removed in order to come into evidence. And so in the clip, you hear Gregor alleging that his son was coached by his mother, Brianna Micciolo, to try to diminish him as a father. Take a listen.
His son's mother then decided that to take it upon request during the 3-hour visit yesterday to take my son to the doctor to the hospital, and he just my video silent essentially from 7:30 until 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had no idea what was going on. She would not leave my son's side, and I was not able to be there for my son. And then furthermore, my son came back this morning, and he was stating to me that his mom said that he had to tell the doctor that I had hit him and things of that nature and coaching him.
Our second question of the morning, did that call the defendant made to the hotline point to his guilt or point to innocence? Let's bring back in our power panel. Dr. Sue Kornbluth, I'd love to start with you this time. How I wish you could evaluate this guy. You haven't personally, but as a psychology expert, what are your thoughts?
Well, this sounds like, the clients that I have every single day in my practice, that they're calling CPS to report things that we may or may not be true. And one of the things that is reported as a lot is that the mother or the father is coaching the son to say things. However, Julie, it is rare, very rare, that a child will come home and just say to a parent, my mother told me to say that you hit me. This father, in my opinion, would have to have badgered him and asked a lot of questions to get to that. And furthermore, in this particular case, I feel that he made that call to protect himself so that when he went to the hospital and if his child died, he had on record that he had called in. And that's why, in my opinion, Julie, he left the hospital, because he was afraid after his son died that he would be arrested. And he was hoping that call would help him. But I don't think it does.
I love what you're saying there, Dr. Sue. A little flight as consciousness of guilt, perhaps, with this guy. Kinsey Schofield, I want to go to you next, please. When you think about this call that he made, does it just jump out at you as being a self-serving call?
Absolutely. I mean, it tells me that he knows the difference between right and wrong. He's trying to cover his tracks. And if you add on the addition of the bizarre Google searches that happened around the same time, Google searches about when he could potentially be arrested or what happens when he turns his phone off, on top of deleting, I believe it was thousands of text messages between him and his ex, it all looks like guilt. I think the jury's going to look at all of the combined evidence and say, these are not the actions of a man that is innocent and hasn't harmed his baby.
He should have been protecting his child, Kinsey. Yes, that little boy, when you think about it, he's 6. I mean, really, his whole life ahead of him. What a baby, really. I mean, he deserved to go through grade school and high school. Franz, would you take us home on this point, please? The hotline call, the fact that the judge said, well, look, we've got to redact portions of it. Not all of this could come in to evidence. The jury's heard the gist of it. Tell me, do you think it's helpful for the state in their quest to prove him guilty?
I think it's very helpful to the state, because it's not just that he called, but it's listening to his tone and listening to what he's saying when he calls, right? If I'm his defense attorney, I'm like, well, what is he supposed to do? You call a hotline if you think your child's being abused, right? If I'm defending him, but if I'm a prosecutor, I'm like, it's just a little bit too convenient. This feels like he's stacking up some dominoes, just like we've discussed. He's stacking up some dominoes so that he can say later, well, look, wasn't me, it was somebody else. And I think this just doesn't smell right for him, and I think he's in a world of trouble.
I like how you put that, Franz. You're right. It stinks. It stinks. I think his only saving grace is going to be Dr. Michael Baden when he comes in, because we know the the manner of death and the cause of death are really both in question. And so that could be his only saving grace. These facts are disgusting. We have to leave it there for now. A big thank you to all of our wonderful panelists for that analysis. Got to say goodbyes to Franz Borghardt and Kinsey Schofield. We love having you both on the show. Thank you so much.